How is it rocking, Dwayne Nation? Stay here because we are just about to get underway. In the meantime, please like, comment, and subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. We put out weekly sports content, and we want to continue to build up Dwayne Nation and the brand that is Dwayne Sports. Thank you all, and enjoy. Welcome in, Dwayne Nation. This is your host, Justin Paez, alongside Genoa Agudelo, and we are here to discuss week 8. Monday night has just finished up. You either had some miraculous victories or some unfortunate losses. I know I am one of them tonight. I had, I think I was up by 40, and I had Dobbins, McBride, and McLaughlin, and my buddy had Baker Mayfield and Connor, and he came back and won. Crazy loss. Last second, I think Connor had that long run, put him over 100 to get a bonus, and then also just the amount of yards he got. So, back to the drawing board. But that's what that's what fantasy football is. You get some good ones, you get some bad ones. But we're looking forward into week 8 and the waiver wire that is ahead of us. But before we do that, how you feeling, Jano?
Yo, Dewey Nation. Justin, I'm doing good. A weird kind of, bizarre week here in the NFL. I think some games had lived to expectations for fantasy-wise. Just a crazy week, Justin. We had some, weird duds, some kind of breakouts there. So definitely one of those weeks that you're kind of leaving scratching your head. For me, I almost lost 2 in some of my leagues, so I was able to make a few comebacks there. But a very nail-biting week this week as far as fantasy, Justin, for sure.
Yeah, and most weeks are as such. Even though I like those weeks where it's like, oh, I already won on Sunday, moving into Monday doesn't matter, whatever happens. But that's what it's exciting. But we're looking towards week 8, and I'll start us off as at our top quarterback waiver wire pick for me. And this guy is my kind of streaming quarterback. I'm not saying this is a guy you're going to need to start every week. This is a guy who has a prime matchup this week. He is home against the Carolina Panthers, and it's Bo Nix. Only owned in 16.1% of leagues. Bo Nix comes into this game where the Panthers have mightily struggled against everybody. You've been able to start just about everybody against them this season. And so I think going into this game, I think, the Broncos are going to want to continue their hot streak from, beating the Saints on Thursday night. So on top of that, they get a little extra time of rest and preparation to go into this game in front of their home crowd. And I think he's going to be a top 10 play. I think he's well worth a pickup, and he's owned in not many leagues.
Yeah, Justin. I mean, this Carolina, defense is probably one of the worst defenses we've ever seen. I mean, they let, back up Mariota, after Jane Daniels. Hopefully he's okay. He went out, early in that game on Sunday against Carolina. And Mariota was able to, have a pretty good performance there. And so there's no doubt Bo Nix at home is going to be, the guy, just kind of look at and starting. And, this Broncos offense is they're really on the upcome. I mean, they had a great, kind of overall, game and domination there against the Saints this week. And, if you're looking at what you need, I don't think there's any bye weeks this week, Justin. I think everybody's back on for just this week only, and then we go back to bye week. So obviously you're not starting Bo Nix. But hey, if there's some matchups, like for example, I have Patrick Mahomes in one of my leagues, Justin. He has not really hit 20 points all season long there. And so maybe if you have Bo Nix on the bench and you have Mahomes and you have a pretty good roster, I would say maybe Bo Nix would possibly be a great start. I know Mahomes is going to be at Vegas this weekend, but there's a couple of quarterbacks that have been a little shaky there. Stroud had a pretty bad game this week. So there's a couple quarterbacks that you could, if you're not really confident in your starters matchup this week, I would say Bo Nix is the guy.
Yeah, I completely agree. What do you got at QB?
For me, I'm going to go with Mr. Unlimited. I'm going to go with Russell Wilson, and he is officially back on the fantasy scene. Justin, he had a phenomenal game last night against the Jets. My prediction was so quite opposite, and I'm man enough to admit it. But Russell Wilson really impressed me yesterday. I was not expecting this, outing from Mr. Unlimited there, but he was 264 for 2 touchdowns. And he pretty much showed the deep ball all night. Pickens was able to reach 100 yards there. Pat Freiermuth only had 2 catches on 50 yards. But, I just feel like with Russell now, he has all the targets to kind of get to people. And he has a great coaching staff to kind of, reach all his, offensive playmakers there. And so I definitely like Russell Wilson on the upcome. They do have the Giants next Monday night, I believe.
Correct.
And so, that's going to be kind of a tough matchup. The Giants defense is pretty solid. However, this, Steelers team is looking to continue their winning streak. And I do think that, the Steelers defense is going to be well, but I do think Russell Wilson has a favorable schedule throughout the year now. Hopefully he can stay healthy. But I like Russell Wilson being a guy you can pick up, and he does have the Washington Commanders in a couple weeks, potential shootout there. Even with Baltimore a few weeks after, they do face Cleveland, kind of a defense that's little by little not going downhill, but definitely like Russell Wilson, a guy you can just pick up. He's only owned in 5% of leagues.
Yeah, I think the fact now he's climbed onto the scene out of nowhere. People are like, why do they bench Justin Fields? But Russell Wilson showed up against a very solid defense against the Jets. So I think he's well worth the pickup, especially only owned you said in 5% of leagues. So I like that pick there. Moving to the running back side of things, I have Jaylen Warren, his teammate, coming into this game. Obviously, Warren has struggled this season with injuries and has been plaguing his season thus far. But when you have a game like he did, he had a pretty solid game. It just you see the involvement. He only had 7 points, but 12 carries, 2 catches. He's being used more and more in this offense. And now that Russell Wilson is at the quarterback position, if he needs checkdowns, Jaylen Warren's that guy. Justin Fields, you could argue, yeah, but Justin Fields he could take off and scramble by himself. But Russell Wilson's at that age where let him check it down to the running back, do some things. And in the past, last year we saw Jaylen Warren really carve out a good role for himself. And this year obviously hasn't replicated that or grown on that. But I think it's kind of this space where I think Pittsburgh's offense might start cooking, and I think Jaylen Warren's a good piece, only owned in 45% of leagues.
Yeah, Justin. I mean, Najee Harris had a great game last night, and Warren could be a guy that could benefit with the quarterback change there. Russell Wilson's, he likes to dump off to a lot of his running backs there, and so I definitely like him to potentially have, a couple great games here in the future. And he's a great handcuff there, a great receiving back. So I definitely, like him as a handcuff, a guy that you definitely need to hold on to. We're not really confident in how, obviously Najee Harris has had 2 back-to-back great games, but how long can he make this last? In his career, he's been very inconsistent. And Jaylen Warren's kind of been that guy that's, been looking to take his job. So I definitely like Jaylen Warren there. For me, Justin, I'm going to go with a guy who is looking little by little, who is, getting a lot of volume here, and that is Ray Davis there. Obviously they play the Titans this week, and their defense is a little weak there. But Ray Davis, he's had a touchdown and 41 yards this past weekend. He only had a catch there. He does usually get more targets out of the backfield for catches. And we're not really sure how healthy James Cook is. He only had 12 rushes for 30 yards. He also had a score. But you got to kind of look towards this, future of this Buffalo offense. I think they're kind of trending towards a high, running team. Yes, they just traded for Amari Cooper. I think they want to open up the running game as best as they can. And I like Ray Davis to kind of start edging into Cook's handoffs, potentially stealing his touchdowns. And I like what I've seen out of Ray Davis. Obviously, last week he got the start when Cook was out. And so, next week they do get a matchup there against Seattle, which makes things interesting because Bijan had a great game yesterday against the Seahawks. Even though they lost, by a good amount of points. I do like Ray Davis to kind of edging, kind of taking James Cook's goal line touches there.
No, I think that's the biggest thing to point out, and it's a good thing to mention. James Cook coming into this year, kind of the only guy there in Buffalo that we thought would get touches, but getting that workload, he's just not that goal line back. He's a very skilled player, but he's more of that receiving back and in and out of the yards, breaking long runs. And goal line's just not his style, and we've seen him get injured so far this year. So I think Ray Davis could fit in with that. And last week I think we told you guys to pick him up, or a couple weeks ago when Cook got injured, but he's only owned in 14% of leagues still. So he's still readily available, and on a team that we think Buffalo is going to continue to be a very high-powered offense. They're going to be successful on drives. They're going to be near the goal line, and I think Ray Davis might continue to eat into his workload. So I think Ray Davis is a good pickup, one to stash for sure, especially with the next 3 matchups being Seattle, Miami, and Indianapolis. So 3 good matchups there. Moving to wide receiver, I have somebody literally owned in less than 1% of leagues, and that is Cedric Tillman of the Cleveland Browns. The unfortunate news of Deshaun Watson tearing his Achilles. They bring in DTR, and the connection, it was beautiful to see with Tillman and DTR. What was it? 12 targets, 81 yards, I believe, for Tillman. Obviously, Tillman has not been on the radar for anybody since he joined the league. I knew I had some high hopes in a dynasty perspective when he got drafted. But now with Amari Cooper out, in Buffalo, I think Tillman slots right into that role that Amari had. And we saw the benefits of it. 8 for 81, super great, stat line to put out. They play Baltimore next week at home, so I think he's in line to maybe have a solid game. So I think Tillman, although it's going to be an ugly-ish offense, I think him and Njoku are the 2 pass catchers that are going to need Cleveland to move the ball forward.
Yeah, I like that. With this Browns offense now, they have a fresh fresh start there. Obviously with the unfortunate news of Deshaun Watson being out, their offense is now going to be changing. We're not sure if Thompson's going to get the start there. With Thompson Robinson, we're not sure if they're going to throw in Jameis, who has a heavy arm. But I do think if Cedric or if Jameis Winston becomes a starter, do like Cedric Tillman to kind of take off there. He did have, like you mentioned, he had 12 targets, 8 catches for 81 yards there. I like it with Winston kind of taking over. I do believe Winston was able to throw that touchdown pass to Njoku. So I feel like this offense is now reborn in some type of way. Obviously, it was great to see Nick Chubb come back. He also scored a touchdown. So this offense for the Browns is going to be way different going into next week with their starting running back officially, back in the lineup through the rest of the year. They do now have to make a decision now what to do at quarterback with their starter being out. And Mark Cooper is no longer there. He's in Buffalo. He had a good game as well, but for his first game as a Bill. So now the Browns need to find their number 1 wide receiver. Obviously, Njoku gets kind of all the targets there, but really like what I saw out of Cedric Tillman there in garbage time. And he was a guy that they picked, just last year in 2023 in the 3rd round. And so he's been very underwhelming there. Kind of took a while to get, to his number 1 spot on the depth chart. Obviously, Mark Cooper and Njoku kind of took off with Flacco last year. So definitely like Cedric Tillman there. For me, Justin, I'm going to go with the guy who went off on this last game of the week slate. And I'm going to go with Rashod Bateman. We have talked about it in the offseason. Who can be this guy Lamar Jackson can go to other than Zay Flowers? Also, Mark Andrews is now coming back as one of those top tight ends. People kind of gave up so fast on him. I was very surprised that people just dropped him after 3 or 4 weeks into the season when the tight end position is great. But now it doesn't matter because Rashod Bateman is now here. He has now arrived. He had a great game, tonight on Monday Night Football in Tampa. Literally dominated this, Tampa secondary. 121 yards there. He had a touchdown as well. And you know what? Lamar Jackson is playing at a high level, and he's now going to be finding all these targets. And you can now trust Rashod Bateman there. Next week they do have a matchup against that Cleveland defense. But 4 targets for 4 catches, and he had a touchdown for 59 yards. And he's here now. He is now. We had some questions about John Harbaugh, who's preaching about him all offseason. He's now here. Even last week against Washington, he had 4 targets for 4 catches for 71 yards. No touchdowns there, but by week, he's kind of been going up there in the standings. And even in a few weeks ago in Cincinnati, he also had a touchdown for 50. And he had 58 yards and a touchdown. So the last 3 weeks for Rashod Bateman has looked pretty great there. And now you can start him, I believe, now, Justin, with confidence.
I'm interested. I'm on the fence with Rashod Bateman. I think you bring up good points. Obviously, he had a phenomenal game, tonight against Tampa Bay. It's just the fact that, we've seen the Mark Andrews being more involved. Zay Flowers is always there. It helps that this defense is somewhat struggling. So Lamar in this offense is to continue to put up points. So those are all the pluses. Obviously, history of Bateman would tell me to stay away, and their schedule is kind of underwhelming. At Cleveland is so. Denver's tough. Cincinnati's the easy one. Then at Pittsburgh and at the Chargers. So those are solid matchups. Nothing like super gimme besides the Cincinnati one. So I still think he's well worth the pickup. Especially you put up 25 points in a game. I think you're well worth a pickup, especially on this type of offense. So I agree there. And moving to our defensive streamers of the week, we both got one each, and I got the Chargers this week. They face off against the New Orleans Saints at home. I'm assuming that Spencer Rattler is at the helm. They won't have Rashid Shaheed. They probably will have Chris Olave, but I just don't think it'll be enough. We saw the Chargers; they just lost a close one to Arizona. And they were stopping Arizona for most of this game, besides, a big play from James Conner and a 40-yard run from Kyler Murray. But I think the Chargers, they're going to want to bounce back in a bounce-back spot at home against a team that really struggled. And, we saw the Denver Broncos defense go bananas against them on Thursday night. So I think the Chargers are well worth a pickup.
Yeah, Justin, I do like the Chargers defense. They've been very solid. They were able to lock up, Marvin Harrison Jr. tonight. I'm not sure if he's battling an injury, but they were able to lock up a lot of Arizona's, playmakers there on the road, even though the Cardinals were able to steal a victory on the road. And they gave up, the rushing yards was really a little bit questionable there. But, with the Saints, they don't really have much running game to begin with. Kamara has struggled, really bad these last few weeks after a really hot start. And this Saints offense, I was a big believer in Spencer Rattler and what they can do, but they already have Rashid Shaheed on IR. It's looking like Olave could miss another game potentially. And this Saints offense is going downhill with the rookie quarterback. I was hoping he'd take off, but this Chargers defense is still very solid. And I like that matchup very much. For me, Justin, I think I might have to take an easier route there. I'm gonna go with these Detroit Lions home with the Titans. Obviously, we talked about this last week on how Buffalo would be able to dominate home. And I think this was a last-minute thing that Mason Rudolph was pushed into the starting lineup over Will Levis, which is very interesting. And I do think that if Will or whoever it is, Will Levis or Mason Rudolph, I think if Mason Rudolph gets to start in Detroit next week, I think that he's going to suffer. And it's going to be very difficult for them to even score a touchdown there, Justin. That team in Detroit, they're very physical. They had, the last two games are on the road. This is going to be their first home game without Aiden Hutchinson, their leader. And I think that Detroit crowd is going to be rocking. I do think this Detroit offense can kind of go up really early, 21, 24, 21, go up 21 or 24 between that range kind of before the half. And I think that, Titans are going to be playing catch up. And I don't think Ridley and Hopkins can really do much to that Tennessee defense to kind of move them past the 50. So I do like this Lions defense to dominate, get some sacks, some fumbles, some turnovers, maybe some special teams, possibly a punt return. And so maybe this game could get really ugly. So I definitely like the Lions to kind of stat pad those points there for the defense.
Yeah, I think the Titans are becoming one of those teams where you can play your defense against any week, whichever team's playing against them. They're really struggling. Regardless of the quarterback, obviously I feel more excited for the Lions defense if Will Levis is starting, but regardless, Mason Rudolph's still not a very good quarterback. So I think that's a great pick there. But yeah, Dwayne Nation, that is our waiver wire. This week presented by us two, J-Pay and Janny. That was fun to do. We got more to discuss with, takeaways, buy low, sell high, from week 7 on to week 8. So stay tuned for that. Thank you for listening. Like, comment, subscribe, everything like that. And send us out.
Yo, Dewey Nation, that was a fun episode. I had a pretty crazy week 7, and we're going on to week 8. So this is definitely the crunch time. Not only this week, but the next couple weeks until mid-November on everybody's run to the fantasy playoffs. So this is where it gets really tight there, Justin. So Dewey Nation, play close attention. Keep tabs on us. We're going to be providing you on so much information on what to do, what not to do. As Justin mentioned, our takeaways, our bold predictions, buy low, sell highs. All will be posted up this week, Dewey Nation. We love you guys. Thanks for watching. And as always, peace.